Hey there everyone, welcome to episode 2 of reviewing your custom singles. Let's kick things off with a submission by Sky Slasher. This is Archfiend of Fire and Lightning. This card is always treated as a Red Eyes monster. If this card is used for the fusion summon of a Red Eyes monster, it can be treated as Red Eyes Black Dragon or a normal monster. You can send one Red Eyes or Archfiend monster from your hand or field to the grave, special summon this card from your hand. You can only special summon Archfiend of Fire and Lightning once per turn this way. Once per turn, you can activate this effect, fusion summon one Red Eyes or Archfiend fusion monster from your extra deck by sending materials from your hand or field to the grave, or by banishing Red Eyes or Archfiend monsters from your grave. Solid card and a nifty summon skull retrained for the Red Eyes archetype. It can effectively combo with any other Red Eyes or Archfiend monster by discarding it, then using this guy's effect to use itself, and banish the discarded card to bring out a fusion. So it's a nice 1.5 card combo that gives the deck an extra option outside of Red Eyes fusion. Do I think it makes Red Eyes competitive? Nope. But a step in the right direction. 7 out of 10. This submission is by Venomzilla1. This is Paramodium the Cardinal Sin, a Link 4 where the materials are 2 or more monsters with different original attributes. This card cannot be tributed or used as Link material. Also, it cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects. Cards that this card points to have their effects negated. During the end phase, if this card was special summoned, banish this card and the cards it points to. During the standby phase, if this card is banished, special summon this card to either side of the field. You can only activate each effect of Paramodium, the Cardinal Sin, once per turn. I think the premise of this card is pretty sweet. Nifty little way to keep getting rid of threats, especially anytime your opponent brings out something in the extra zone, since anytime she brings herself back, you can just place it under that extra zone. Could also combo well with an archetype that benefits from having its own stuff banished. The protections, in my opinion, are a bit too strong, but a solid generic Link 4. Let's give it a 8 out of 10. This submission is by Tornado825. This is Performapal Odd Eyes Awakening Magician. Pendulum effect. Banish any opponent's monster destroyed by battle with a dark pendulum monster you control. If you control no monsters, you can special summon this card from your pendulum zone. You can only use this effect of Performapal Odd Eyes Awakening Magician once per turn. Monster effect. Its materials are 1 or more. No, that's a typo there. 1 spellcaster tuner plus 1 or more non-tuner monsters. If this card is synchro summon, you can apply one of these effects. Special summon 1 level 7 or lower dark Performapal or Magician Pendulum monster from your deck or face-up extra deck, or set 1 Pendulum spell trap from your deck or grave. If this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, inflict damage to your opponent equal to the destroyed monster's original attack. If this card leaves the field from the monster zone, you can shuffle 1 card from your field or grave into the deck. Then, if you have an unoccupied pendulum zone, you can place this card in your pendulum zone. You can only use each effect of Performapal Odd Eyes Awakening Magician once per turn. So this is a retrain of Enlightenment Paladin, which is why it has that inflict damage effect, but as is the case with many pendulum cards I received, it has far too much text, and the candidate to cut is probably that burn effect, though you'd probably want to cut something else on top of that, because that would still leave you with 150 words just for the huge amount of text alone. Otherwise, it's a solid card, but I give it a 5 out of 10. This submission is by Yogi. This is Calamari Archipelago. It's level support, which Konami gave up on quite a long time ago, so this should be interesting. Anytime you special summon a level monster, you can add 1 level monster with a different name from your deck or grave to your hand. During your main phase, except the turn this card was sent to the grave, you can banish this card, shuffle up to 2 level monsters in your grave into your deck, then draw 1 card. So this is a generic field spell support for the different level series of monsters that we have. The first effect is cool. I would just put at least a soft once per turn on it. The second effect is just needlessly slow. I think you could go without the except a turn this card was sent to the grave. And a call out for all of you fans of the anime Rising of the Shield Hero that inspired this card. 6 out of 10. This submission is by Sif. This is Duelist Domain. When a card or effect is activated, choose a monster on your opponent's field, grave, or banishment, and your opponent declares that monster's original type, attribute, level, attack, or defense. Until your end phase, your opponent cannot activate the effects of monsters with a different original type, attribute, level, attack, defense as that declared type, attribute, level, attack, defense, nor declare an attack with such monsters. Then add this card from the field to your opponent's hand. You can only use this effect of Duelist Domain once per turn. If you control 1 or less cards, you can activate this card from your hand. Now this is an incredibly fascinating card and the type of creativity I love to see from customs. Powerful 1-turn floodgate, probably not the best against any deck that is largely single type or attribute, but definitely worth seeing how this works in practice. And then your opponent gets it back from you and can use it on you, which makes it even more interesting because if you're trying to use it yourself, then you'd want to build your deck to be able to play around it. So just a really well creatively designed card. I think you might be able to do without the attack and defense call out, since I feel like a player just almost never picks those options. It's just me, again, something you want to play test to really see how often those options are being picked. Nonetheless, again, a great card. 9 out of 10. This submission is by P3P. This is Shiny Black Sea Squatter Max. That's right, Max C is back and he's brought his friends. You can only special summon one Shiny Black Sea Squatter Max per turn. During your opponent's turn, quick effect, you can special summon this card from your hand. If your opponent special summons a monster or monsters, this card immediately gains 1,000 attack. If this card would be destroyed, make this card lose 1,000 attack instead. During the end phase, tribute this card, and if you do, draw cards for every 2,000 attack it had when it was tributed. Your opponent cannot activate cards or effects in response to this effect's activation. If this card changes attack except with its own effect, send it to the grave. Fascinating card. Another one that I would love to see in practice. I do appreciate the attempt at a watered-down Max C. And this one doesn't make your opponent decide between shutting down their turn altogether, since the draws occur at the end phase, if this card even makes it till then. It's probably fine. Maybe a little bit too watered down. Let's give it a 6 out of 10. This submission is by King Zero. This is a Link monster, Link 3, Grave March Dreaddeal, comprised of 2 or more Grave March monsters. If this card is Link summoned, you can take 2 Grave March cards from your deck, send one to the grave, and add the other to your hand. Quick effect, you can discard any number of cards to make both players send cards from the hand or field to the grave up to the number of cards discarded. You can only use each effect of Grave March Dreaddeal once per turn. On paper, this looks like a pretty solid boss as is, so its balance really just depends on how much you can abuse all the cards you intend to send to the grave with its 2 effects. This is a card that is designed for King Zero's own custom archetype, aptly named the Grave Marches, and you can check that out with the link in the description. I give this boss a 7 out of 10. This submission is by Mordekaiser. This is the Monarchs Breakforth. I imagine the Monarchs just all got together and said, "All right, Kings, here's our master plan. First we storm forth, then we break forth, then we revolt." Declare 1 attribute from the attributes among your opponent's monsters that they control or are in their grave or banishment. Special summon 1 tribute token, level 1, Thunder, attack 0, defense 0 with the same attribute. Then add 1 monster with 2,400 attack and 1,000 defense from your deck or grave to your hand with the declared attribute. Then you can tribute summon 1 Zarborg, Mobius, Thestalos, Grandmark, Ryza, or Caius. If you activate this card during your turn, you can tribute 1 of your opponent's monsters for this tribute summon. You can banish 1 other Monarch spell or trap from your grave, add this card to your hand. You can only use 1 effect of the Monarchs Breakforth and only 1 stat turn. With the first effect, that last bit, you would say immediately after this effect resolves, you can tribute summon and so on. Though I do wonder why you felt the need to specify those 6 instead of just saying a level 6 Monarch monster. I don't know why you felt the need to cut out the ones that also get their effects when they're special summoned, but maybe there's something I'm missing there. Other effects on here are solid. Let's give it a 8 out of 10. This submission is by Christian JEA. This is Aquamarine Plate Montipora, a starter for their custom Aquamarine archetype, of which you can find a link to in the description. If this card is normal or special summon, you can add 1 Aquamarine monster from your deck to your hand, except Aquamarine Plata Montipora. You can banish this card from your grave, fusion summon 1 water fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field as fusion material. If a water fusion monster is special summoned while this card is in your grave, you can special summon this card, but banish it when it leaves the field. You can only use each effect of Montipora once per turn. Overall, solid starter. Don't get much of a vibe of what your deck's core strategy is or gimmick, except maybe just summoning water fusions, so let's give it a 7 out of 10. This submission is by Tamar. This is Idle Midnight Glamrite Ronco, which is not only a custom card, but a custom type, a crazy attack and defense stat line, which is going to make you do math, and pack some Kung Fu Kick. If this card is summoned, you can activate any of these effects. 1, if this card is in your hand or grave, you can banish 1 Idle Midnight monster from your grave, special summon this card. You can only use this effect of Glamrite once per turn. Once per turn, if this card is summoned, you can target 1 face-up monster your opponent controls. It loses 1,000 attack, and its effects are negated until the end of your opponent's next turn. If this card destroys a monster by battle, you can take control of 1 other face-up monster your opponent controls with attack less than or equal to this card's attack until the end phase. If you do, you cannot attack directly for the rest of the turn. Not really sure how that first effect works, because if it activates on summon, why would it be in your hand or grave? The second effect is fine. The third effect would be fine if not for the fact that it already has 2 other good effects in it. All right, the elephant in the room. I'm not talking about her thighs. Bro, a level 4 with 5,644 attack is wild. Also, what even is a magic idolizer? Like, is that what spellcasters become when they drop out of college? 2 out of 10. This submission is by Grim Reaper 719. This is the Undead, Illusionist, and Sacred Magics in addition to the Ghost Sisters. When a card or effect is activated that includes any of these effects, quick effect, you can discard this card, negate that effect. either sets or places a spell trap on the field, summons a trap as a monster, even if it isn't treated as a trap, places a monster in the spell trap zone as a continuous spell trap. You can only activate one the Undead Illusionist and Sacred Magics per turn. Nifty effects, the second two can be niche depending on how the meta looks, but that first one definitely will become more and more useful as Konami continues to power creep search effects to play around Ash Blossom. 8 out of 10. This submission is by Tanopiana. This is Glutton Neon, Spirit Cage, a normal spell. Props to drawing your own card, and this is part of their own archetype, which you can check out with the link in the description. Looks like Pac-Man finally got an archetype. Show any number of level 3 Glutton Neon monsters with different names from your hand and or grave. Shuffle them into the deck, and if you do, draw cards equal to the number shuffled. Also, you cannot normal or special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except zombies. You can banish this card from your grave, then target 2 monsters on the field, including 1 level 3 Glutton Neon monster. Shuffle them into the deck. You can only use 1 effect of the Spirit Cage per turn, and only once that turn. Card looks pretty cool. Again, part of their own custom archetype, so can't say too much about that second effect, especially without truly understanding how the archetype works. But combos aside, looks like a solid card. 7 out of 10. This submission is by Sam Hufford. This is Sazagi, the Black Sun Dragon. This is a Xyz monster without a rank. Ooh. 1 light dragon. Xyz monster is its material. This card's original rank is always treated as 8. Okay, so scratch that. It does have a rank of 8. Must be Xyz summoned with the above material. Transfer its materials to this card. You can only control 1, the Black Sun Dragon. Once per turn, if an opponent's card or effect is activated that targets this card, or if this card battles a monster, quick effect, inflict 1,000 damage to your opponent. During the end phase, return this card to the extra deck, and if you do, special summon 1 light dragon, a Xyz monster attached to this card, transfer this card's material to the summon monster. Nifty card, looks more fun than useful, but the submission did mention that the second effect is akin to how staring at an eclipse can burn your eyes, so props to the creativity, also great artwork. I give it a 6 out of 10. And finally, we have Dan Cribbs' Frog Archer. When a monster is special summoned from the extra deck, you can banish both it and the top 2 cards from someone's deck, presumably your own, face down. If 3 or more frog monsters are in your grave, set this card. Instead of sending it to the grave, you can only use this effect of Frog Archer once per turn. So yeah, you just need to specify whose deck you're banishing from, but I hope it's your own. Oddly, a generic counter trap, which while powerful is maybe not probably, it could see more play than Solemns, maybe not, since those actually negate the summon. This one doesn't, maybe I'm wrong. Anyway, interesting that the first effect doesn't have a frog condition attached to it, since I would just think this looks like it should be supportive of only the frog archetype instead of being just a powerful generic counter trap. I'll give it a 5 out of 10. So that does it for episode 2. As always, you can submit your custom cards with the link in the description. I'm open to competitive, casual, and joke cards. Also, you can join the Discord to discuss all things Yu-Gi-Oh!, especially to find a custom card community to get feedback and provide feedback for other people's customs and your own customs, as well as find people to duel with custom cards. And if you join the CCG family tier either on Patreon or as a YouTube member on the original CCG channel, you get priority on custom card reviews. And I will catch you guys all in the next episode.